Okay, welcome to Empower Podcast. Ryan, thanks for being with me today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, so for those that are listening, it's been more than a year since the last time that I recorded a podcast. So Ryan, you're my first guest in like a year-ish.
Well, this is the first podcast for me, so very excited and just happy to be here.
Thanks. So one of the things that we were talking before this episode was about how we met, how our paths came together at some point. And something that I want to start talking about that you were recommending this is how we met. Do you remember that?
Well, I think we had some classes together as well, and I couldn't remember the exact class that we had together, but we were, so just for context, both Luis and I went to NAU. We were both studying marketing. I studied marketing and management, and it was Dr. Gilbert who they were looking for more people to join this pro sell competition that was going to Orlando, Florida. And I'm trying to remember what the name of the actual competition.
International Collegiate Sales Competition.
Yeah,
something not
yes.
sales, something like that. Yeah.
The ICSC.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the exact what our role was, which I guess that shows that we didn't do that great because there's no awards on our mantle. But we were doing kind of like a sales case. So we get there and you have to read over a case study and then build out a 20-minute presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to practice for that. And we met with Dr. Gilbert, was it twice a week?
Yeah, I think it was on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Wednesdays and Sundays sounds about right. So we would meet with him, and then we were going through like practice cases, and he built out like this full strategy as to what we were going to do. And I can remember the plane ride in, and we're talking it through, and like, okay, if it's this way, we're going to frame it this way. And same thing when we got the case. This is just a demonstration of teaching versus doing, because then when we got it, at least we had a frame of reference and had that background material. But it was still a struggle.
We didn't know what the case was going to be about. The case, we were going to get like 48 hours before the actual presentation.
Yeah.
So we went to Florida, but we didn't really get to see Florida, right?
No. And we were also wiped out by the time we actually went to Disney World. And I can just remember that day, we both had our laptops, was trying to build out a 20-minute presentation. We built something way too vast that we didn't even finish presenting it. So then we build out this full presentation, and I stayed up until 3:30 in the morning. We give the flash drive at 7:30 in the morning, present at like 9 a.m.
And it was like 5 a.m. because we were used to Arizona time, and that was like Eastern time.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
With that, did you sign up for that because you just wanted a free trip to Florida, or because you wanted the experience plus a free trip to Florida?
I mean, you have a trip to Disney World. I was excited about that. And I did know some of the people from ProCell as well before. So I was excited to kind of build up that camaraderie. Professionally, I did see it as a good opportunity to like challenge myself and learn and show something on the resume. I wish our results were a little bit better. We were in a grouping, and I don't know if you remember.
We were fourth.
Yeah, we were
fourth. I was 5 in that group, right?
Yeah, there were 5 people in each group, and we knew right away, like, we're not moving forward.
Or 5 teams in each group.
Yeah, right? 5 teams in each grouping. And it was weird because we just presented like in a hotel room.
Yeah.
I think. So then we had the flash drive hooked up, and they're just sitting on the couch. And not our finest moment collectively, but we did it. And I remember that trip, and then just kind of all of the practice and all of the time that we spent together before, and then we got to know each other a lot, even just through Disney and hanging out afterwards. And so I'm very grateful for that trip. Yeah.
In that Disney thing, I remember that we came to the park like at 1 p.m. and by 4 or 5 we were like, let's just go back to the hotel. Yeah. And the day before, the day before, I think it was when after we presented, we went to eat breakfast, and then I fell asleep for like, I don't know, so many hours.
I remember that, because the other reason why I went is because they were like, hey, we have some really big companies here and they're trying to find marketing and or sales professionals. I didn't really have much of an interest in sales, but I was looking for a marketing job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can be there. I can be ready for the career fair. And yeah, you were just passed out.
We could barely open our eyes.
So I remember I got an interview on the spot that day.
Oh yeah.
And then I made it to the next round, and it was for Gartner, and I didn't really have an interest in living in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
So I had stopped there, but that would have been kind of a crazy career journey if that's where it took us.
Do you remember the last training that we had with Dr. Gilbert? What happened?
No.
So 2 trainings before the last ones, or the training before the last one, he said he was going to take us to lunch before that trip. It's kind of like the gap between the last training and the trip. And we were to dinner. And you and I, it was on a Sunday evening, and we were like, oh, where's he going to take us, right? And we were thinking about it like, it might be like a fancy restaurant, because like we had been training for like a while. And then all of a sudden, when he was wrapping up, we were like, I think that's it. I think there's no free lunch. And he just totally forgot about it. Yeah. And we ended up going to cafeteria. And it was the first time we actually talked.
Yeah.
Because we were only like, in class, we didn't sit next to each other. And in the trainings, it was literally training, and that was it. So that was the first time we actually got to know each other, right?
But honestly, shout out to NAU cafeteria food, the Do. Really good food. And now having to pay for my own groceries and still having a huge appetite, I miss being an RA, being on the meal plan, being able to go into the Do right before class. But I do remember that one of our first, I think it was the very first training or discussion we did, was at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So that was very random. Yeah, I remember just bringing a notebook, and there's NFL games everywhere because we were doing this in the fall semester.
Noise. Yeah.
And he's talking through strategies, and we're just
watching the game. Right?
I'm glad that I don't have to do that again. Yeah. But build a friendship between us, and ultimately, like any professional experience and challenge is gonna only make you better.
That was a good outcome then.
Yeah.
And now after that, we graduated, I think. Wait, you graduated in May 2023 or December May 2023 or December 2022?
May 2023.
Okay, so I graduated in December 2022, and then we started our MBA together in fall 2023. You finished in 2024, and I finished in May 2025 because you were in the accelerated track, right?
Yes. It's weird because I'm like, what year are we in again?
Yeah.
And for me, because I was born in 2000, I'm always like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I turned 25 in a couple months. What year is it?
Yeah.
But it feels like so long ago, and yet just like yesterday that we were in the MBA program together. It was weird going back to NAU a week and a half ago, and then looking around campus, and then even though I still have a baby face, I look around and I'm thinking, wow, these kids are all so young.
Yeah,
I'm so far away from that. It's weird.
Tell me about it. You were giving a conference recently in NAU. That's why you went there, right?
Yeah. So one of my close connections, he was my professor both for 2 classes, and I got to work for him as a graduate assistant. Charn McAllister, he had reached out to me and said, hey, if you ever want to be a guest lecturer, let me know, because I was able to do that once before. And I thought that would be great. I have no idea what I would present on. And then one of my coworkers for the Arizona group, Miguel Martinez, had sent me something for Arizona DECA, their fall leadership summit, and said, hey, they're looking for presenters. You should do it. And I thought the same thing. I have no idea what I would present on. What am I supposed to do? And then I'm at the gym. I'm sitting on the bike. I'm thinking. And then I thought of a presentation outline. I submit it for Arizona DECA. And then I ended up sending an email to Charn McAllister the very next day. And he's like, this sounds great. I'd love to have you up at NAU to give this not even as a guest lecturer, but to present to NAU's Professional Institute of Ethics and Leadership. I almost forgot that name there. But I was very excited. I was very nervous because that was in early September. And then I went up there a little bit later and I gave this great framework, but I had no research done yet. I hadn't even started the presentation. We had a call And then he's like, okay, you'll do great.
Okay.
Like, if you need anything, give me a call. And I framed it as the vowels of my modern workplace, which was just 5 lessons that I've learned in my first year of working that I wish I knew during, my MBA program or even my undergrad degree.
When you were in school, did you feel at some point that you were experiencing or going through the imposter syndrome? I know you're confident, but still, like, I consider myself confident too, but I was going through an imposter syndrome at some point in my educational journey. I'm wondering if you passed through that too at some point.
I'm kind of lucky that I didn't.
Okay.
I think the only thing that affected me slightly, and it wasn't really imposter syndrome, but more so a challenge, was my freshman year, COVID hit. So then COVID was, the second half of that second semester. It was kind of in spring, like a spring break, go home, and then never went back to NAU. The next year...
So your freshman year in NAU was spring 2020? Or no, fall 2019? Or how was it?
Fall 2019 into spring of 2020.
Okay.
So that's when COVID hit. And my first year, I did really well. I had a 4.0 GPA. And then coming into the next year, I still did well. The one thing that wasn't really imposter syndrome, but I more so saw as a challenge, and I made myself work very hard for it, was I went through 2 years at a 4.0 GPA. And then I thought, okay, now we're back to in-person classes. I don't know if I'm really smart enough to do this, because for online classes, I thought a lot of it was just sort of discipline. That people would get bored, you get distracted, and I'm like, I don't really think I'm that smart, but I'll do the work. And then once we went back into those in-person classes, I had a question for a while of like, all right, can I actually do this? And that was the only like real challenge that I had. But I was lucky to be in a family that's, both of my parents have college degrees. My brother did really well in school. So I always kind of felt like that's what I was going to do. And that's what they built me up to do. But I'm curious if you could kind of tell me about the imposter syndrome that you were facing while you were in school.
I think it was more in 2022, I would say, and in 2023 and part of 24. So at the beginning, I was coming from a community college in which it was really easy to connect with people. First, because most of them would speak Spanish, and I wasn't that comfortable in English at that time. And then when I was about to graduate, it was a point when I was like, I feel that I know everyone in this community college. I feel everyone is so nice. I think that if I need something, there's going to be always someone who is willing to give me a hand. And then they will know my name, because it was only a few people, right? Then I go to NAU. No one knows my name. They don't even ask for my name. They ask for my student ID number. So it was kind of like a shock that I felt. And it was not because one thing is right and the other one is wrong. It was more because it's a big university. And now that I experienced NAU for a few years, I was like, of course it's hard to memorize everyone's names because I don't even memorize them, right? So what happened was that in 2021, when I started there, it was still online classes for COVID. And then in the fall of 2021, it was when I got to the College of Business to the in-person classes. Then all 2022 was the same. And when I was about to graduate, because I graduated in December 2022, it was when I was like, this is my last semester. I'm going to get my marketing degree. And I don't feel that I'm ready to go do marketing in real world. So I was like, I need something else. That's when I was like, I want to get into the MBA program because that gives me 2 more years of 1, experience, and 2, education. And then in 2023, it was when I had the accident, remember? And after my accident, I was interviewing a lot of people that I really admire, like ESPN, Fox Sports broadcasters, pro baseball players, UFC fighters. And I was talking to all these people, and they are like in their 40s, they're in their 50s. I don't care how long it's going to take me to be in the position where they are. Like when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to opportunities, networking, finance, everything. I was like, I want to be sitting in that chair. I don't want to be sitting in this chair. And I was still having the flag of I'm a student. And that's something that hit me hard until I talked to someone and they told me, you cannot compare your journey to someone who is 30, 35 years ahead of you. You'll get to that point in 30 years or 35 years. So that was when it was when I realized that it was an eye opener, and it was until mid 2024 that I got into this internship with Super Luxury Group. Remember, and then I was like, this internship, the outcome that I want is not only the experience itself, but I think with this, I'm gonna be able to not experience the imposter syndrome ever again.
Yeah.
At the end of the internship, I was like, mission accomplished. Okay. And then the last year of the MBA, I never experienced it. I haven't experienced it in a while, but I mean, I think the internship, the reason why it helped me go through it, it was because I was being exposed to so many people that were influencers, Netflix producers, Apple TV producers, and all of these huge names that then you're like, there are people like you and I.
Yeah.
They breakfast, they go to the restroom, they shower, they do everything, you know?
Yeah, they make mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like you and I. And then someone told me, I won't say his name, but I'll tell you after.
Okay.
But he told me everyone who's going to these type of events, or everyone you're talking to, they're like you and I. And the person who told me this, he's a billionaire. Wow. So it's like the fact he invited me to Chipotle like last year.
Billionaire
Yeah.
Did? Okay.
And I'm like,
billionaires eat Chipotle?
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course.
Yeah.
So,
hey, it's good food.
Yeah.
No, this isn't an advertisement for Chipotle, but I do like good. Chipotle. Yeah.
But he had invited me before to a DVAX game, and then when we were gonna go eat lunch, I was like, it's my time to invite him. I mean, he's gonna choose a restaurant most likely, and I was thinking that it was gonna be a super fancy restaurant. And when it was Chipotle, it wasn't Chipotle, it was Cape. Cape. Or Cava? Cape?
Cava. Yeah. Cava. Okay. Yeah.
But it's like Chipotle, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was that place. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting to spend way more, you know?
Right.
And then what he told me is that everyone showers, everyone does their routine in the morning, everyone sleeps. They're like you and I, Luis. Yeah. And I'm like, I wish I was more like you, but yeah, it was an eye-opener for sure that everyone is the same. And I had to have calls with people that are influencers that I watch their videos every day. But when I was in calls with them, I pretended that I barely knew their job because I couldn't put myself into a fan mode. Right. But whenever the phone was ringing, I was like, oh, I can't believe this person is calling me. I even took screenshots of when they were calling me because I just couldn't believe it. But then I was like, when I talk to them, I think they appreciate that you talk to them like a normal person, right?
Yeah, and it's honestly incredible of how many people that you've gotten to talk to and all of those different types of connections. I'm kind of curious. So you had said you had gotten over it. So you don't expect to ever really feel that imposter syndrome again?
I think it's a work that has to be continued. And I was talking about it this morning in a reunion that I had. We were talking about imposter syndrome. And I would say that it's a thing that you gotta work on. Because I probably haven't experienced it since mid last year. But then what if at some point I stop learning or I get lazy? I don't want to get lazy. I don't want to stop working. I want to keep improving, right? But I think the only thing that could make that happen is that I'm not confident in the work that I'm doing.
Right.
And I think that's something that had happened before, that I was like, oh, I'm seeing all these people doing that. But then now the question is, what am I doing? Not what they are doing, because they might be killing it. It's something different than me, but I have the opportunity to do something great with the resources that I have, the knowledge that I have. So it's more understanding that you're your competitor, not anyone else. And also, I think many people say this, that you're the first person that you gotta lead if you want to be able to lead others.
Yeah.
So I think, the hardest person to lead is yourself.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love all of those points. And this was actually something that I had talked to students about at Arizona DECA Fall Summit and during the college presentation as well. Because from research I found, 18 to 24-year-olds, 46% of them are facing imposter syndrome. And
what percentage?
46%.
Okay.
So, we both had kind of faced it in different ways when we talked about the educational background. But for me, I felt it really within the positions that I've taken on. So when I was a resident assistant and I'm doing that for the first time, I did way too much. I had 15 events over the year when the requirement was 4 because I felt like I don't deserve to have this job. Somebody would be way better than me at this. And my bosses loved me. Like, they were excited. They were people that I knew the year before. They had told me, oh, we were looking to hire you from when we met you your freshman year. And I still just didn't really believe them. So I became very confident, in my education once I kind of built that up and said, it became almost a part of my identity of, I'm a 4.0 student. Like, I can do this. I know the process. I can study for a test. But then when I was going into, internships where I did one for a smaller nonprofit, I was super nervous. And then when I did, and that nonprofit's packages from home, it was great, fun internship. And then when I went to a larger internship at Shamrock Foods, and they were talking about, hey, we only have this small of an acceptance rate, and you guys are the stars of the stars. I looked at myself and I'm like, I don't really think I am that way. I'm thinking I can get an A on a test, but it was kind of a difference in identity. And even same thing with my current job right now. I was like so quiet and shy and scared and really just nervous, even though I walked up to them at the career fair. I had met them at a career fair, and they were so convinced because I could speak well to make a position for me. But then when I'm walking in that first day, I'm so nervous. So it was just kind of a weird experience. And I don't know, with whatever new endeavors come my way, when I was presenting to those students, I felt confident in what I was writing and building out. But the night before, I slept for 4.5 hours because I was so nervous. I was sweating. Really? Yeah, I was sweating. And I love opportunities like that. And I was so happy that I was able to do something like that. And then when I talked to professors or students after, and, I got some great feedback, I was still just kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be me, but I want to challenge myself and make myself into that, where I am, a much more confident public speaker, and I am somebody that can offer a lot of value, but I just know that it's going to be steps. And I think it's kind of a good thing in a way that I am still nervous and questioning myself, but it hasn't stopped me in the way of like trying to do something new. It just keeps me up late at night.
Something that I always like to say is that the more uncomfortable the situation is, the more chances you have to grow. And I think that's something that probably happened to you when you were speaking at that conference, right?
Yeah. So I had never given a presentation to that size. I had especially never given a presentation that's, just talking about really me and my experience, and something that wasn't built out or researched. I would get so nervous. We were both in the consulting classes for the MBA program, and those are 20-minute presentations, and you have 3 other people on your team, 4 other people on your team. You talk for 4 minutes, and I would get super nervous about that. And I'm looking at graphs and charts, and here I'm talking about part of my story of why I was feeling so nervous and so down, and some of the challenges I felt in my first year, and research and everything else that Charn McAllister did not look at before. And I was kind of thinking, I'm like, he really trusts me to do this? Like, I still, in that moment, looking out in the audience and seeing professors, I felt like a student.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're kind of in this weird in-between, because for me at my work right now, I'm still the youngest person there. And sometimes I feel like I'm still the baby. Yeah. But then I walk onto a campus and I feel so out of place. I feel so old.
That's true.
I feel like I should already be driving the Mustang and own a home and all of these things. But that's just kind of the interesting thing of like being early into your career, is that those are just the challenges that you have to face and deal with.
I can relate. I think I'm also the youngest one, at least in my team, besides the interns. But it's that in between that you were mentioning, that I went back to AEIOU in August and in July, I think it was, early July. And I wasn't interacting with students. It was during the summer. But I was seeing the campus, and I was like, I miss this place. I miss like the fun, the baseball, that. Kind of like every day is so different. Sometimes classes, sometimes working out here, running there, hanging out at this club or something. And now it's a routine, but also it's a routine that gives you the opportunity to save for your retirement, to save for this, to get the actual hands-on experience. And that's the result or the opportunity that we have gotten because of the educational journey that we had. So we basically were working towards it. But I think the fact that we sometimes feel like that might be that we enjoy the journey so much, or at least I can speak about for myself that I enjoy the journey. I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
And now transitioning into something bigger or different, at least, it's challenging at the beginning, but it's that in between in which I'm still having a hard time trying to remove the label that I'm a student.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm not a student anymore and I'm not an experienced worker still.
Yeah.
So I think might have to do something like that.
Yeah. And it's kind of that weird in-between spot, because when I'm getting introduced on my first day, they're like, hey, this is Ryan. He had a 4.0 GPA. He got an MBA and all this. And now I'm in different networking groups and organizations. And after a couple of months, because I work in insurance, so, oh yeah, I have my property and casualty license. I have this insurance designation. I create these. It becomes work oriented like that. And the transition just kind of flips.
Yes.
And you don't even realize. And there's a part of me that's like, wow, was I taking myself almost too seriously during education? And I was still enjoying that journey. But, you know, once you're a year, 2, 3 years in, maybe you're going to keep the MBA next to your name and the education, but that's not going to be the primary thing that people are looking at years down the road.
They don't care about the classes we took. They care about the impact we're making in real world.
Right. And especially if you're going to grow within your company too, is unless you are that young, like first year or two, like, oh, this is his potential. But then once you have that work behind you, it's all about what are you doing right now?
That makes a lot of sense. So, and when you were a student, it can be like as a student or right now as a non-student, who are your mentors or who are?
That's a great question. So
not that you're my mentor, but more like people that you refer, like, because sometimes we get mentorship from people who don't even know they are mentors, right?
Yeah. I did a lot of things alone, admittedly, but I got very lucky because my brother was somebody that I always looked up to, and he did so well in school, and he's 3 years older than me, and he was also in business. And a lot of my life, I was trying to kind of replicate some of the success that he was doing, whether that was just education-wise, whether that was in high school, and he's the vice president of National Honor Society and all of these other things. He was kind of that person that I could look to. And then additionally, both of my parents have been very successful within their own careers, and they were always on my butt about, making sure that my grades were doing well. But I was lucky to have different mentors, whether it was at Shamrock Foods, of a mentor within marketing, or whether that was at Packages from Home, same thing, mentor within marketing, or somebody like Charn McAllister when I had met him in my senior year, and then we had stayed connected, and even now. And now at work, it's the same thing of like, I have mentors in kind of all different spaces. I have a mentor in marketing that's for the company that owns the insurance agency. I have kind of mentors of somebody that's just about business insurance. I have a mentor of somebody who just really kind of understands being a little bit younger and moving around and not knowing exactly where you fit into a vast industry. So I've been lucky to have so many different connections. And my dad was somebody that I always looked up to and aspired to be. And I had my brother as a relative competition in a way of, oh, he just had this teacher. And now I have this teacher and I'm doing worse. Like,
did he go to AEIOU too?
He went to U of A.
Okay.
So at least there was a little bit of separation that way. But he kind of built that framework. He was actually a resident assistant as well.
Okay.
And a lot of it was to save money, but then a lot of it was, oh, Grant was great at this. And I hope I can be great at this. And I'd love to leave college without loans. But, it's just kind of different for everybody. But for you, I'm curious to spin it back to you. Who were some of your primary mentors? Because your experience is very different from mine, just with your background and some of the challenges that you had to face to get where you are today.
I think you're throwing me all the questions back now. But I'll do it. So, Len, right? And Paul. So they both have been like my mentors since, I would say, 2022. And it just happened as a coincidence. First, I met them here in the podcast.
Oh, nice.
And then they become, with Len, I met him in a workshop. Then I invited him to my podcast. And for those that are listening, Len is a professor of us, or was a professor of us, or friend now. And he was a marketing professor with a lot of experience in corporate at FedEx specifically. And Paul, he was a CEO of multiple companies in his career. And with Len specifically, I was in a. Do you ever had to do the pathways when you were getting into the College of Business?
Yeah.
So he was leading one of them. It's more like a workshop, and he asked at the end, "Anyone has any questions?" And it was in Zoom. So I was like, I'm just gonna turn on my mic because I don't want to leave this opportunity. And I was like, yes, I'm pleased. I have a podcast. I have been doing it for a year. Do you want to be in my podcast?
Wow.
At that time, it had been just a year.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed him. That was the first one in English. And then 9 months after, he became my professor. And I ended up taking 3 classes with him.
Yeah.
And with Paul, I met him because I was his student. And when he introduced himself and his journey, I was like, you gotta be empowered. So then I interviewed him a month after. And then he was my professor in 2 classes, but he kind of immediately became my mentor. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like how it happened.
Yeah.
And
oh, sorry. I was just going to say that kind of shows the power of just like asking.
Yes, right.
You know, a lot of people are willing to help the next generation. A lot of people, like you said before, are just normal people like you and I. You know, they're not on some crazy high pedestal, even though they both have had such accomplished careers. Mm-hmm. They still see potential in you and they just want to help, or they just want to talk.
I think something that Len says, I think you probably even heard that from him at some point, that when he retired, he still wanted to be in academia, I think how it's called, just like teaching classes, because that was something he was even enjoying when he was like a full-time worker for FedEx or something like that. I don't remember the exact journey, but he put it in a way like giving back all this knowledge to people who are just starting their careers. Yeah. So I think that makes a lot of sense, because you can tell when a professor, and not to diminish anyone or like nothing is better than the other, but sometimes we have professors that have always been in academia. Sometimes we have professors that just got into academia, but they have like a career like in corporate, for example, or as a consultant, like Bridget, for example. But I think you can learn from both. Yeah. But in my personal experience, I think when I was having professors that were practitioners, I was like, I would say that what makes them different are the stories that they can tell. Mm-hmm. Because it's something that happened, and sometimes we're like, oh, we didn't even know that we had to, or we have interacted with your product or with your service, and we don't even know that you were behind that. An example of this is, do you ever hear about The Last Dance of Michael Jordan, or Halftime from Derek Jeter?
So NBA, I obviously know who Derek Jeter is as well. Yeah. But yeah, Last Dance, I'm a huge NBA fan. Okay. So I watched that whole docuseries. Okay. Unfortunately, I was born while Jordan was playing on the Wizards. Okay. Which is what people want to skip by. I'm a LeBron fan. Okay. It's not relevant to the podcast, but that's just who I got to see. So he's my goat of the sport, but I respect Jordan. Okay. But what were you saying about Last Dance?
That in 2023, I interviewed Patricia from ESPN and Disney, and she was in the marketing team who was developing The Last Dance and the captain about Derek Jeter, that documentary. And I had gone to Fenway Park the year before, and I think that was when the captain was launched. And there was a big, it wasn't a billboard, but it was kind of like a billboard, but the ones that are in the bus stations. You know what I mean?
Are you saying like on a bus bench? Or
on a bus bench?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or not where you wait for the bus.
Oh, okay. So like next to the bus stop, basically?
Yeah, the bus stop. Yeah, that was the word that I was looking for. So it was a captain advertisement next to Fenway Park. Wow. And she and her team were the mind behind it. So I was like, that's really cool that you sometimes don't even know the people that are behind the things that you find super interesting or super cool or like something disruptive. So when I was saying to her about it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, you know? So I think that's something really cool.
Yeah. No, it's kind of crazy how you never know what somebody's impact is going to be, whether you're really seeing that across the globe or right in front of your face at a bus stop. So
you also published a paper or an article called Why Belonging Matters More Than Diversity. Tell me about it. You were telling me a little bit for the episode.
Yeah. So I got very lucky. I had mentioned him earlier, Charm McAllister. He had told me, hey, for your graduate assistantship, I had shown some interest in being in HR. He had brought in his colleague, Curtis Odom, as well. And Curtis had this great idea to discuss the difference between diversity and belonging, and how belonging is really the place that we want to get to as a workplace, compared to diversity, where a lot of people see it as just checking a box, whether they're looking at somebody's features or whether they're looking at things on stats on a screen. Belonging is something that is much more difficult to measure. And I was very lucky to be a part of that process of talking it through, researching, finding different articles, finding different things to reference. It was published on MIT SMR, which is their Sloan Management Review. And it was kind of crazy thinking back about that whole process, because it had started in, I think, October. Oh my gosh, how old are we now? October of 2023.
I'm 18, I know you.
Yeah. And it started in October of 2023, and majority of that work was honestly from October 2023 until March of 2024. And then there were a little bit of edits back and forth. And I believe it was finally published in April of this year. So it was a 1.5 year long process. And I just felt lucky to be a part of a paper like that. And he saw it as a great opportunity for me, because I had shown an interest in HR. So while I was doing my master's program, I also went and got my SHRM CP. And then he thought, oh man, if we can get you published on this article as well, which involves, a primary HR topic, is very important and would look great for me. And, I'm lucky to be in a job that I enjoy. But yeah, originally it was just kind of crazy to think about, because I thought it was going to be published before I was graduating. And
I remember that.
It took such a long time, but I'm very lucky. And Charn put in so much work. They both put in so much work, and I was happy that they accepted some of my edits and that we were able to get something out there, and just lucky for that opportunity.
And that adds a lot to your credibility too. It's not only your resume, but it's also like how credible you become in the world where we are right now, because we have a major, or let me put it this way. We are in a career in which you don't always need a degree to succeed. It's not like medicine, right? Like you want your surgeon to have like as many licenses, certification, everything, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, your school or your education, it's how I'm going to trust you, right? But when it comes to our careers, it's like someone that has had a lot of experience in business, marketing, management, whatever. It's like sometimes you acquire that through experience, because while you're working, you're also learning. But when it comes to medicine, for example, you want your surgeon to be the best one, right?
Yeah.
You're not like, oh yeah, I have been testing this. I want the science behind and everything.
Yeah, you want the surgeon that's top of his class.
Yeah.
But for somebody maybe in marketing, for example, you show them, hey, I grew this social media profile from this to this, or I made this much money. They don't care what your GPA was.
Exactly.
So
I think that's what I'm saying. Like, that type of stuff that you're doing, it's also adding to your credibility. And it's not only, it looks cool on LinkedIn, it looks cool on your resume, but for future opportunities, Ryan said whatever, and here's what is backing you up.
Yeah.
That's how I say it, at least.
Yeah. No, I got very, very lucky with that. And then even currently, I feel lucky to be involved in a couple different professional opportunities. One of them, which is Young Risk Professionals of Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
And that had started in October of last year. And one of my coworkers, colleagues, Joseph Cook, had said, hey, I want to build this organization out. They have a national presence. Right now, there's 25 chapters. And we don't have one in Arizona. So I'm going to do it. And he had asked me and my other colleague, Allison Carr, to say, hey, do you guys want to help out with marketing this? And I said, yeah. That sounds great. I'll build out an Instagram. I'll build out a LinkedIn. I'll help, create Eventbrites. Like, I'll try advertising this and getting people involved. And luckily, just from being in close proximity to him and building this out, attending events, networking with so many people, I'm now involved on the national marketing committee, which has also been great, because then I got to meet a few more connections that way. I got to meet and learn from a lot of people at these networking events. And now I have a director role for Young Risk Professionals of Phoenix. And then because of all of my involvement there, it's helped me also get involved in a different insurance organization. And now I'm going to be the co-chair of the Young Agents Committee. So
Attaboy.
it's, I've taken the initiative when opportunities are in front of me to try to like make the most out of them. But I also know I've gotten very lucky, having Charn McAllister, who was even like, hey, you wanted me as your professor for the graduate assistantship. I don't usually do this, but I was lucky to have him as a professor for 2 classes, and he said, I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
And we're going to make this the best potential opportunity that we can for you. I just felt honestly blessed to be in that spot. And then, even thinking back to like my background, of course, I've worked hard and studied, but I've had the framework with, successful parents to look up to, and a brother who could kind of give me a lot of advice along the way. And now kind of moving forward, even in my job right now at the Arizona Group, I met them at a career fair.
Hey, that's true.
I had other job offers and opportunities, but I didn't even want to talk to them. I didn't even have an interest in insurance, and I had talked to somebody and they pointed me in that direction. And then I had mentioned, hey, I don't want to work in insurance. I'm looking for a job in HR or marketing. And luckily they had liked me enough. We, started that conversation, and they built a role in marketing, and now that's extended into marketing and a little bit of HR on the recruiting side. But, I just feel very, very lucky for how a lot of things have aligned, and I'm excited to kind of keep taking those opportunities and pushing myself a little bit and seeing what happens from there.
I think you kind of already answer this question, but I don't want to miss it. That's a question that I would say that 90% of the time I ask to my guests. And look, it's been a while since I had a guest in this podcast, and I still remember that. What's the best way for you? It's actually 2 questions. This is the first one. What's the best way to network, or how do you network?
So best way to network to me, obviously a lot of my job now is on LinkedIn, whether that's managing the Arizona Group, our LinkedIn page, or my own like LinkedIn page, or Young Risk Professionals of Phoenix. I've been lucky enough to kind of go to a lot of these events and network with people specific within my industry. Additionally, I had found different opportunities. So since I have an HR certification, I found SHRM of Greater Phoenix, and I've gotten to meet some HR professionals that way. And that's been very impactful. And they've had a lot of different seminars and sessions that I've been able to attend and meet a lot of great people that way. And I was able to kind of present that to my company, and they were like, of course, we support you. And additionally, just kind of keep searching, because I was looking on LinkedIn and found a different random networking group as well. I've gone to a few of their events. And when you meet somebody, taking the time to follow up with them, trying to actually remember something specific about them, messaging them and checking back in, because just networking, talking to somebody saying, hey, can I add you on LinkedIn? Or, hey, here's my business card, isn't really doing that much. So having some sort of follow-up and rapport, and now within the insurance industry, that's been very useful, because I'm meeting people again for the second time, or they're popping up on my LinkedIn as potential candidates, or we mutually have met somebody, and now I've had people sending me candidates that way. So it's still a skill that I'm very much so working on. I was actually at an event last week, and we were paired up with Arizona RIMS, which is oh my gosh, I should remember what RIMS stands for, but is the Risk Management Association for more like professionals outside of just insurance. And I still felt like a fish out of water. Really, talking to those people, and I felt comfortable enough to chat with them, but it's still something that I'm trying to work on and
that's something they don't know, because there's something that I always like to talk about, not in the podcast, but like other in my personal life, and it's credibility by association. So if you are there, people are gonna be like, oh, he's one of us. You might not feel like that, but everyone is like, you go to a baseball field and you see 9 players outside, one of them might suck, but you're like, oh,
they're dressed in uniform.
If the team is great, that guy should be part of that team, and he's in the team because he's adding value somehow, either hitting or pitching or running, right? So I think that people don't realize about it. We are the only ones who realize about it. And one time I remember that I was in a real estate summit. That was like 2 years ago. And everyone who was there, I remember that they were like really well set in their careers. And I was still a student. That was a summer before we started the MBA. But at some point I was like, they think that I'm one of them. So first I was asking them about their careers, what they were doing and everything. And at some point we were like having deep conversations. And then they were like, oh, and what do you do for a living? And I was like, I'm a student in AEIOU. So, but I'm like, the fact that they were able to establish that connection with me, or me establishing that connection with them, they didn't know that I was a student at that time. So I think the same case for you. Like when you're in all of these places, they are like, oh, he's one of us.
Yeah, definitely. Because one of the things I had felt in that event, even last week, where they're like, oh, yes, we're for young risk professionals of Phoenix. And it's just me and my colleague, Joseph. And they're like, all right, here's their 2 people on the board that helped us build out this event. And I'm dressed up. I'm trying to be as fancy as I can, pull out the JCPenney suit jacket.
Attaboy.
And I still just felt like a little bit out of place. But one thing they had discussed was actually like, hey, when you're making these connections with people, of course it's business first. But show a little bit of vulnerability. Don't just be like, I'm Ryan. I do marketing and recruiting for the Arizona group. What's your name? What do you do? Like, nobody's really going to remember you that way. So showing a little bit of vulnerability, talking about things that you're interested in or passionate about outside of work, and showing a little bit of personality is what's going to make you a little bit more memorable.
I agree.
But I'm still trying to, find that proper balance as somebody who's 24, wants to look professional, wants to look well put together, to still show that little bit of personality, even sometimes with colleagues.
So people
you have different levels of relationships with every colleague.
So people don't think that it's a transactional relationship, that it's more like, oh, I want to get to know Ryan. I don't want to get to know, insert your title, whose name is Ryan, right? They want to know Ryan Soffer. They don't want to know your title, because that's going to change. Your name, I mean, hopefully not, right? But
I hope my name will stay the same.
So I think that people want to get to know Ryan. People want to get to understand how Ryan thinks. They want to even know your hobbies, because what if, in my case, what if I meet someone who plays baseball? Oh, now we have something huge in common, right? Or in your case, what's something that you enjoy doing out of work? Are you still running a lot?
Oh yeah,
so something like that.
So sometimes even having those little things is what will make somebody pop up in my mind. Sometimes it's location based, and sometimes it can be company or position based. But maybe in insurance, there's so many people that are in sales. It's like, oh wait, I remember. Yeah, that guy went here and he did this with his family. And, like, those are the things that will kind of stick in your mind a little bit more, because people might, you might be at the same job for 35 years or 3.5 years or 3.5 months. You really just don't know. So kind of building that personal brand, which I'm very jealous of you and all of the efforts that you've put into this podcast over the last multiple years, and how it's going to revamp, starting from here, and even just on LinkedIn. Seeing like 3,500 followers, like, I've been very, very impressed. Like, you've kind of always shown that you have the effort and the energy to be in marketing. So
I appreciate it.
You're in the perfect spot.
Ryan, before we finish the episode, there's a few things that I always do with my guests. So first, I want to give you like the open mic, literally. If there's something else that we miss in this conversation that you would like to share. I don't know if we covered it out or not.
Not much that really comes to mind exactly. I guess the only thing that I'll mention, because I had talked about the presentation that I gave, but didn't really say what the framework was. So I framed it as vowels. The A was about adaptation. So adapting the way that you communicate with different people, because now we go from working with just one singular individual or team that's all within the same generation. You all have the same classes, you all have the same schedule, and now you're working with people that have completely different backgrounds, different experiences. So it was about adapting your communication style. The E was kind of talking about some of those external opportunities. So extending yourself into external organizations, because whether you're at 1AZ Credit Union or the Arizona Group, every organization and all the opportunities are going to be different, and the way for you to become better at networking, the way for you to, you know, maybe potentially find that different job if you're not in your dream job right now, is to continue extending yourself outside of work, and that clubs don't just end in high school and college. That's something I never really thought about. The I, and you're great at this, is about illustrating initiative. So if you have different things that you're trying to do, which you have been doing for 1AZ, even in these just 3-4 months, you can do it. You know, like making the effort, trying and putting it out there and kind of making that request is great. And not every single thing that you're going to do is going to work. But also, as new individuals and newer people within the workplace, you're not expected to have all the answers, but sometimes you can kind of get out there and create a new, fresh perspective. The O was about organization, because I was so disorganized. Horribly disorganized, and how important it is to kind of like reorganize your life and kind of figure out, because right now in marketing, I think it was close to 5,000 files saved on my computer between all of the different folders and things, and kind of making sure that you're organized and building those good organizational routines. And finally, the U, which is something you had talked about before, is just kind of like understand that you are unique, because everybody's on a different path. Everybody's got a different career journey. So whether you're an influencer on LinkedIn like Luis, or if you are kind of unsure in your career and you're kind of still progressing, chances are we're going to be working for the next 40 years. And, you know, what somebody measures as success for you now is going to be different 4 years from now, 14 years from now, or 40 years from now. And everybody's got a different measure in terms of what success is going to be, whether that's a position, whether that's finance, or whether that's just overall happiness. Is because, like, I'm super proud of all the things that you're doing, but if I'm looking at you and all of the great stuff that you're doing, sometimes I just get jealous. And that can be the same with anybody in any position, whether it's colleagues or people like you talked about that are 20, 30 years, is kind of being patient with yourself. So we were in a good flow, so I didn't want to like blah all that when we were talking about it before, but I just wanted to say those were the 5 lessons that I had in my first year. In terms of promoting things, you know, talked about the company, talked about other organizations, and that's pretty much.
Do you put a one-pager for that or something?
I did not, but I would be happy to.
I think it'll be something cool that you can share, because I mean, at least I would like to have it, because I resonated with some of these, and I'm like, I think there's work that I got to do with that. So I think other people might feel the same way. So I think you can add a lot of value with that. So
definitely.
Take it as an action item.
All right, we'll do. Give me homework.
And I'll do it.
Okay.
Like, I'll like to follow that framework.
Yeah. It's just interesting, because like the way that we communicate, obviously the style that we communicate is different. Compared to if you're communicating with your boss, or if you're communicating with somebody from a completely different background. And I was lucky as a resident assistant to have practice kind of adjusting my communication style, whether it was an emergency situation, whether it was with colleagues, or whether it was with students, trying to adapt in that way. But it was still very challenging. And that's what had me being very quiet and shy, because nobody really described me as quiet or shy. But I remember in those first couple of weeks, that's how most people saw me within my organization. And I thought with the E, like, I didn't think there'd be any clubs or opportunities for me to, you know, either get new certifications, get new connections. I thought everything is going to be completely siloed to just what my work is. And then the initiative piece, you know, I figured you do what's in your job description. But on the research that I found, it was actually the 4th most looked for trait from employers. So if you can demonstrate initiative that you've taken, whether that's when you're in school, or whether that's in a current job and you're not happy and you're looking to get a new job, that's going to be huge for an employer, because they're looking for somebody that's going to not only do what's on the job description, but help propel their company forward in a different way. And then organization, it's just like, are you on Teams? Are you're on Outlook? All of those different things. there's a million messages like every single day.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get distracted. I'd have notifications on my watch, on my phone.
Yeah.
And I'd come into work every day, busy. I'm feeling focused. I'm feeling ready. I'm excited to get something done. And then I'd leave feeling stressed out and then not even really sure. And these are the first couple months of like what I really got done because I would just get so distracted by people coming up to me, people talking to me. Oh, here's a Teams message. Here's an email. Oh, you know, just kind of that misunderstanding that we can really multitask when in reality that reduces your performance by 20 to 30%. And then the U is just like, dude, everybody is different. And I still feel that today because I want to be in that spot like you talked about of that guy 20 to 30 years older than us right away.
But we got time, and probably when we're 40, 50, we're going to be like, I wish I'm in like 20s.
Right.
So that's why it's important to enjoy the journey. And I was thinking about it like really deeply the other day because sometimes I'm like, I can't wait to be in that spot, right? Like in 20, 25 years. But I'm like, probably in 20, 25 years, I won't, hopefully I'm still fit, but I might not play baseball that same way. I might not run as fast. I might not have the same condition. Hopefully I will, and we're training for that, right?
Right.
But you never know what might happen in 20 years. I mean, health is the number one thing, right? If you're healthy, you can do so many things. But in 20, 25 years, many things can change.
Yeah.
And the fact that we want to be there, I think it's one, because we're going to be in a better financial situation. We're going to have, of course, way more knowledge in 20, 25 years in comparison to now. But at the same time, right now we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So even just think about the stock market. Someone who's 25 who puts so many dollars for, I don't know, 30 years is going to end up with more than someone who is starting at 35, even contributing more. Yeah. So I think we have time in our favor.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's easy to say that, but it's really hard to live it.
Yeah. No, we definitely have time. And that's one of the things that I've thought about over the last like 6-7 months, especially, is okay, well, what other hobbies do I want to build up for myself that way? If and when that time happens, when I am having a family, that I've built a good routine that extends outside of just fitness. Like I enjoyed fitness. I did a triathlon in April, which was great and super challenging. But then it's like, okay, how do I want to kind of advance my mind in other ways? And sometimes it would be those self-help books to kind of prepare and change my mindset. But now it's been fictional reading. Now it's piano, which I am terrible at. And I've been trying, and it took me probably like 3 months to learn the song Payphone, which isn't even that difficult. But I'm just kind of so stubborn that I will continue on with these things until I'm hopefully good at it. And I just want to be like, hey, well, if things do work out the way that I hope they do, and in 5 years I have a kid, I'm not going to be sitting there playing piano while my wife is changing diapers. Like you are a parent, and then maybe you are even a more senior employee. Like that time is so precious. And that's why probably a lot of those senior employees wish they were in our scenario right now, where they could kind of see the world in a different lens, bring that new perspective, bring more energy, and honestly have fewer responsibilities.
That's true. So, that's a good way to put it. Ryan, something that I always ask my guests at the end, I already asked you so many questions. You already asked me like 2 or 3. But I always ask me 1 or 2 questions that can be about anything, and I'll answer them unless a previous guest has asked me that question. Okay.
This one isn't even really much of a business question, but I just
it can be anything.
I just wonder if you got this question during the RA interview, because I remember this question forever. It was, if you could be any kitchen utensil or like material, what would you be and why?
Okay, my answer is I didn't have an interview to be an RA.
Oh, you didn't?
No, so
really?
They didn't ask me questions.
Okay, well,
it was an email.
Oh, okay.
So ask me a different one.
But if you could, I will still keep the same question.
All right.
If you could be any kitchen utensil or material, what would it be?
I don't know. A knife.
Why?
I'm useful but dangerous.
Useful but dangerous?
Right?
I remember this answer, and I think this is kind of what got me the job. I said a spatula, because I could be used in so many different functions and so many different meals, and I could be used to kind of serve and assist people and like lift them up, or I could be used to kind of change things up and dice them up or whatever. But I just remember that being one of my, and this is me 5 years ago, one of my best interview answers.
Wow.
From a question, and I just forever
That's really
remember.
Philosophical, right?
Yeah, I just forever remember that silly question because hey, maybe if I didn't answer that well, I wouldn't have gotten a job.
That's
and
nice.
I'd be sitting here with like a lot of money in loans.
Yeah. Hey, that's true.
I guess the final question from me is, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned in your first few months of working full time?
Oh, that's a good question.
And it could be multiple. But, I kind of talked through a few of the things that I had learned, not as a direct lesson in terms of like, oh, this is how I messed up.
Okay.
And this is what happened. But if there was one thing that you could tell Luis 6 months ago, 8 months ago, that would have helped you.
I'll choose two. I'll start with one. The first one is tailoring my communication, and you touch about it in your framework, because my first language is Spanish, and I recently learned English back in, I would say, late 2019, early 2020. It was when I was feeling comfortable speaking English. So I'm still kind of new to this language, right? And even though I get the slang better than before, still when I communicate in English, hopefully, you'll be able to tell me in this episode, but I don't have that many filler words.
No, you don't.
In Spanish, I do. So in English, the way I learn it, this is a way to say it, communicate it that way. But in Spanish, I have so many ways to say an idea that I use filler words. Or for example, if I'm going to say something that it can be interpreted like, oh, you're being too direct, I can go around and communicate the same thing in Spanish. In English, not really. People have emotions, but even though you communicate the same message, sometimes you gotta frame it in a different way that doesn't come across as direct. And when people talk to me directly, I like it because that means clarity, right? But when people go around in ways to try not to make me feel bad or something, sometimes I'm like, can you tell me more direct? Because I'm not getting the point that you're trying to make here, But I would say that's something that I'm still working on. Hopefully I'm doing a better job on it, but making sure that what I communicate is not only, here's the message. That it's more, okay, so this person is more direct. Like, let's talk directly to that person. But if this person is more emotional, or if this person has like kind of like understanding different personalities and tailoring my communication that way, I would say that has been the biggest lesson right now. And also understanding that there are processes for everything. Sometimes processes, I'm really well established, but sometimes they are not. So you have the freedom to play around it. And something that I learned, I'm pretty sure you did too, from Len, is that he was saying, don't say, I feel, I think, I believe. Who cares about what you think, feel, or believe? Here's the results. Here's the data. Here's the research. That's why we should do this. And we're not in a position right now to say, based on my experience, because, what experience, right? Like, besides our side hustles or personal stuff. But I would say these are the two biggest lessons. Understanding that, and I'm taking that advice to myself, because sometimes I feel that this might work, but then I have Len's voice in my mind. Who cares about it? Do some research, gather some data, and then present that recommendation. Because if they ask you, okay, so you think about it, and I think about this other thing, who's right? No one. But if we back it up with research and data, then you add more credibility to yourself. So I would say these are the two biggest lessons.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And with the communication piece, I can see why that would be a potential challenge for really, it was a challenge for me, but I would definitely say it's a challenge for you then interpreting into a different language and continuing to build that, because people are just very different. And then even the same thing of, we were talking a lot about the tone for talking, but the good thing when you're talking is you could kind of see my tone, you can see my body language, but so much of our work is all virtual. It's a Teams message, it's Outlook, it's emails. I've reread emails 4 or 5 times thinking, oh gosh, what did I do? Are they upset with me? Like, what happened? And people have probably done the same thing for me, or it's created some sort of miscommunication. So that's still something I'm thinking about all the time as a native English speaker. I was just like, okay, wait, let me reread this again. Let me rewrite this because I don't want anything to get misinterpreted. And then also knowing, okay, my boss just loves a quick response. Like, I'm just going to get a quick response, 10-4. Yep, that works.
Okay.
He's good. And then a different boss or different colleague prefers this. So I'm going to write out all of my thoughts, be very formal, and it just takes time. And so it's kind of cool that you could expand on that and talk about that from a completely different perspective, but you're not alone. Like, everybody's probably challenged in that, especially as young professionals. So
what do you want to ask my next guest? I always ask that question at the end, and I don't have a question for you because I can't even remember when was the last time that I asked this question because it's been a while. So
do you have any idea who your next guest will be? No idea. Okay.
Sometimes I do have an idea, but I still don't tell my guests. So.
I would say, what is one lesson a mentor or teacher taught you that you will never forget?
Okay. Let's take that one. Ryan, thanks for having been in Empower today.
Thanks for having
talking to you.
Yeah.
It's really weird to give a handshake because I always record in Zoom, so that feels nice.
Yeah.
So thank you for having been with me today. And for everyone who's listening, please make sure to share this episode with your network, in your Instagram, in your stories. You can find me on LinkedIn as Luis Carlos Estrada. You can find me on Instagram as Luis Carlos Estrada _ empowered. And Ryan, anywhere would you like to send our people there?
Follow the Arizona Group on LinkedIn. It will be the Arizona Group Insurance Brokers. And then for me, it is just Ryan Soffer, Soffer. And you'll see MBA, SHRM CP, and all those good things. And you'll know you're in the right place if you see Connected with Luis.
All right. So have a great day, everyone. And thank you for being in Empower. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. That was nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Kind of fun talking back about Dr. Gilbert.